Hello everyone, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming, bringing you another Diablo 3 video. Welcome everybody to another Season 25 video here. So we got another build guide here, and we are covering the Witch Doctor, and we're going to be covering the Spirit of Arachyr set. So basically this set capitalizes on using corpse spiders, and it is a pet build, so we're going to be using the Enforcer gem eventually. And basically the way this set works is when you're wearing the two-piece, you get this big spider that follows you around, and it attacks anything that you throw corpse spiders at. And then also the 4-piece bonus is, as you can see here, as the spider moves around, it has webs. While we're standing on the web, we take 75% less damage, and for 4 seconds afterwards when we leave it. And also enemies are slowed while they're on the web. And then the 6-piece, which is the big damage bonus, is our creature skills that get a 25,000% increase. So that's corpse spiders, plague of toads, fire bats, locust swarm, hex, and piranhas. But again, the only one that really matters is our corpse spiders here. So they're going to be dealing all the damage along with the spider queen. So what items do we need? So while I go through the items that we need here, I'm just actually going to have a little bit of gameplay footage down in the bottom here. So let's get that set up. So basically what we're using is we're going to be using the 5-piece Arachyr set. So we're going to be using a Ring of Royal Grandeur. So with that, the 5 pieces that we want to use are the shoulders, chest, gloves, pants, and boots. And basically we want to have the helm slot free because we're going to use a Mask of Jerem, because of course that helps our pets deal more damage. They can deal up to 200% more damage. So we want to use that. We're also going to be using Endless Walk, so that is the Traveler's Pledge and the Compass Rose. We have, of course, we're going to be using Lakumba's Ornament here for the bracers, so that's reduce all damage taken by 60% if your soul harvest stacks is at least 3, and an additional 2% for each stack of soul harvest. So they changed that a little bit from what it used to be, at least the wording of it. And then the belt, this is a new item, at least I don't remember it from last season. So corpse spiders deal an additional up to 100% of damage, and each spider bite causes the target to take an additional 1% damage from corpse spiders for 5 seconds, so that just helps amps our damage of the corpse spiders. The other ring we're going to be using is the Ring of Emptiness, so you and your non-fetish pets deal up to 300% increased damage to enemies affected by either Haunt or Locust Swarm. So we're going to have Locust Swarm as one of our abilities, so we're going to spread that onto the mobs, and then we're going to be able to deal 300% more damage. For our offhand, so basically this is what we've been seeing so far this season, using this one, Shirk Randy's Triumph. Oh man, I hate some of the pronunciation on some of these items. I know I completely butcher. I apologize for that. So basically we can deal, while we're in the spirit realm, we get about 3 attacks, and while we're in here, we can those attacks deal up to 100% more damage. Now we can run around indefinitely in the spirit realm here until we come across an elite, or if we do those 3 attacks. So as we're running around, when we eventually find an elite, like here I just did 3 attacks, I jumped out, we'll get jumped out. But then while you're fighting it, you could go back into your spirit walk, and then your first 3 attacks while in there onto the elite would get the bonus damage there. Then for our weapon, we are using Sacred Harvester. Of course, this one is Soul Harvest now gets up to 10 stacks instead of the 5. So this is just a survivability item that we're going to be using. For our Soul Shards, so we're going to be using Dredge of Lies in our weapon. So this, of course, increases our pet damage. So we deal 25% less, but our pets deal 25% more. And then we're also using Sliver of Terror in the helm. So this basically, it reduces our cooldowns, but the big thing is after killing 100 enemies, we get that big ring of fire that we're going to be using as well. For our cube, just going to run down here to the cube. Oh, that's not going to work because I have the video playing, so plan B. So we're going to do it this way. So we are going to be looking for the Spider Queen's Grasp. So this is a ceremonial knife. So basically, Corpse Spider deals an additional 800% damage and releases a web on impact that slows enemies by 80%. And we're going to be using Depth Diggers, the pair of pants where primary skills deal 100% additional damage, because of course Core Spiders is a primary ability. So we're going to get the benefit from that. And then, as previously mentioned, we're going to be using the Ring of Royal Grandeur. And for our legendary gems that we want, we're going to be using Enforcer, so our pets deal more damage. And we're going to be using Simplicity Strength, so that increases the damage of our primary skills. And also, lastly, we're going to be using Bane of the Trap, which gives us that aura that reduces movement speed of enemies within 15 yards. And anything that is impaired, we get bonus damage against. So those are the 3 legendary gems that we're going to be using. So there has been a slight variation on the build, or at least a little bit of flexibility. So depending on what you have better of, whether you have better Depth Diggers or you have a better Mask of Jerem, you can easily swap between these two. So you could be wearing the helm for the Arachyr, and then you'd be wearing the Depth Diggers with pants, or if you have the better mask, then wear the mask and then equip the set pants. There is also, if you want, instead of using the Endless Walk here for Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose, people have been using, I tried it a little bit, you could use Squirt's necklace, and then you could use your Convention of Elements, which is a little bit of variation to the build. So let's move on to the skills here. So that video that was playing there, that was a 110. I did it in about 5 minutes. I just wanted something relatively a little bit in the middle ground, so a little bit of push there, so above 100. And it was still relatively easy to go through, and my gear is mediocre at best. Like, I think I only have 1 ancient item, and some of my bonuses aren't that great. We'll see how bad my gear is a little bit when I go over the stat priority that you want to see. But anyways, moving on to the skills that we want. So the skills that we're using is Locust Swarm, because again, we want to put that on mobs to trigger the Ring of Emptiness, and I am using Pestilence on it, so that means it has a chance to jump to additional targets. We're using Piranhas and Pyronados, so of course this is for a grouping mechanic. It brings puts a tornado there and groups everything up. Our big damage here, we're doing Corpse Spiders with Widowmakers, so that changes the damage type to physical and increases the percent damage to 700%. And then we're using Spirit Walk with Severance. Again, and with our offhand there, we're going to be able to run for days until we run into Elite, in which it'll kick us out. And of course, the vital ability here, we're using Soul Harvest with Languish, so this increases our armor off the mobs. And then here, because I plan to push with this, I just had it pre-set up so I get used to having it as the Horrify with Frightening Aspect. This gives us additional armor here as well. In the early stages where you're less likely to die and more survivable, you could change this and use the Hex, and you could either use Jinx or, if you would like, just for the extra damage as well. But since when we get to end game content, like when we're doing like 140 plus, we're going to be needing more defensive survivability. Horrify is what you're going to use in order to boost your armor, because of course as an intellect based class, we're going to have high intellect, which means we'll have a high resist all in the first place. For our skills, or our passive skills, we're using Creeping Death so that our Locust Swarm lasts forever. Same with the application from Piranhas. Then we're using Pierce the Veil to amp our damage, so we're going to be dealing 20% more damage, but our mana is going to go up, which isn't a big deal because we are based on a primary skill, so that doesn't cost mana. So the extra cost is just on the Locust Swarm and Piranhas, so that's easily manageable. Then, of course, we're using Grave Injustice. So every time we kill something, it removes a 1 second off the CD, which will let us get back into Spirit Walk quicker, as well as use Horrify on all our abilities. So that's pretty good. And then another damage boost here is Confidence Ritual. We're going to be in pretty tight anyways, so we're going to get an extra 25% damage from enemies within 20 yards. As you notice, we aren't rocking a second life with how long we can actually sit in Spirit Walk, because as long as we don't run into an elite, we can kind of pick and choose, which means that when our follower second life procs, we can then play more defensively with the Spirit Walk to wait for that to come off CD, and we're pretty tanky with this build, so we're going to be just fine just utilizing the second life off our follower. For our stat priorities, so as typical, so for our helmet here, we are going to be going for int, vitality, and critical hit if we're using the Mask of Jerem. Actually, it'll be the same for regardless of the helmet because the affix or the bonus to corpse fighters is not located on the helm, so it is on other items. So again, we want vit, int, and crit hit chance. For our neck, we want physical damage and then double crit if possible. Shoulders, we're going to go int, vitality, armor if possible over resist all. And then our AoE here is going to be quite handy. For chest, we want intelligence, vitality, and then you can either roll armor. I personally like reduced damage from elites, especially at the higher levels. I believe you get a better damage reduction bonus here with that benefit rather than the armor. For the gloves, we've ideally would get a quad. So ideally you want attack speed, crit, then AoE. We don't really need cooldown that much because of our passive that when we kill a mob, we lose a second off our CDs. So attack speed is going to be better than CDR. And if you can't get that, then of course intellect, because it's hard to get the quad roll. So then for our bracers, we're going to be rolling physical for the elemental, and then we're going to have int vitality, and then we want critical hit chance of 6%. For the belt, we ideally want int vit armor, and then we would like to roll corpse fighters on it because this is one of the 2 items that we can roll the corpse fighters on, so we would want it there. And then for our pants, this is the other slot where we can roll corpse spiders. So we want int, vit, and corpse spiders. The same for whether it's depth diggers or the set legs. For the other ring, like for our rings, we want basically maximum damage. So if we, ideally we get double crit and attack speed, that would be phenomenal. But more likely we're just going to have to settle for 2 bonuses because they're so hard to get the 3 bonuses. So you want int, then crit. And then for the compass rose, or if you use COE, basically again, we're just going to try to get as many damage amplifiers as possible. For our boots, we're going to go with int, vit, armor, and you can either go move speed or I put a little of regen here. You could also go with resist all potentially if you get lucky enough to get that roll. But again, because we're int base, we don't really need it. So I would go with either move speed or the regen. For our offhand, ideally we would like crit, and then we can roll the corpse spiders on here. This is going to be a tough one to get, so you could also have like some CDR in here. So ideally you could actually get like crit, CDR, int, plus damage, and then corpse spiders, but that's pretty hard to get with all the different variations that are out there. So I'm personally happy if I can just get at least 2 of them on there, and if I get 3, then that's a bonus. Because ultimately we're just after a good unique modifier because this one is so hard to get the right rolls. And then for our weapons, I would like to get high damage, and then also plus damage, int, and then attack speed if possible. So those are the stats that I would prioritize. Overall, this build is pretty fun. I really enjoy the movement that we get when we're using our Spirit Walk, where you can just constantly run until you find the next elite pack. And we do pretty well at killing elites, so being elite hunters works just fine for me. It's actually been pretty fun. I'm looking to see how far I can push this. I've been spending more time on my monk than my witch doctor, so currently witch doctor's top end is about 142s, and I've been doing mid 140s on my monk. I want to get that 150 and then I'll work on my witch doctor here. But it's a lot of fun. It's pretty enjoyable and it can be quite tanky as well. So I think you might need a little bit more Paragon than what you'll need for the monk, which is the top class, but a 150 is definitely possible here in the solo. So if you have any questions or comments about the build, please let us know below and we'll answer them the best we can. I hope you enjoyed the video. We appreciate any likes and subscribes and shares. We like making these videos for you guys, so we appreciate all that. So good luck out there in the rest of season 25 and have fun.